welcome back to Rob's Reviews. Today, we're going to review a movie I like a whole lot. It is called Charlie Wilson's War. This is an excellent movie. It is about a U.S. congressman from Texas during the Cold War. I have a little sentimental feeling towards this because I grew up during the Cold War. I was back in the 70s and 80s. That was my growing up years. And I remember, always having that thought in the back of your mind, what if things spin out of control? What if we have a nuclear war? Which was a distinct possibility. Of course, it never came to be, thank God. And a lot of it is because of this man right here. Now, Charlie Wilson is played by Tom Hanks. He's also joined by Julia Roberts, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Ned Beatty. This is a wonderful movie. It starts out in the year 1980. Charlie Wilson is at a big party in Las Vegas, and he happens to notice a news report, and it's Dan Rather, deep inside of Afghanistan, talking with the Afghan freedom fighters, and they're letting him know that if they could just get some support from anybody, the United States or any other country in the free world that would be willing to pump some money into their cause and get some weapons in their hands, they guarantee victory over the Soviet Union, who has invaded their country. Charlie Wilson takes this to heart, and as soon as he gets back from Vegas, the first thing he does is sets up a meeting with the head of the CIA's Afghan desk, and with the snap of fingers, he doubles the budget from $5 million to $10 million for the covert operations, which is still basically nothing, but that's all the authority at this point he has. He has a meeting with a gentleman who he really didn't want to talk to, but found out was actually the person he needed to talk to, and that was a rogue CIA agent by the name of Gus Avocados. Gus was just as passionate about bringing down the Soviet Union as Charlie was, and together these two begin to put the pieces together. They also get help from an extremely wealthy lady in Texas by the name of Joanne Herring, one of the wealthiest people in Texas. She's also very passionate about what's happening in Afghanistan, and she has some political pull and manages to set up a meeting between Charlie Wilson and the president of Pakistan. And once the ball gets rolling, they have meetings with people inside of Israel, people inside of Iran, and they put everything together to where they can pump money and weapons to the Afghan freedom fighters without the Soviet Union being able to prove it. They're going to suspect it, of course, but they can't prove that the weapons and the money are coming from the United States, which is the main goal here, to keep the Cold War from becoming a hot war. And through the combined efforts of these three, Charlie Wilson, Gus Avocados, and Joanne Herring, by 1987, early 1988, the Soviet Army is forced to withdraw from Afghanistan. And subsequently, very shortly after that, the Soviet Union begins to crumble and fall apart, and we finally see the end of the Cold War. But none of this would have happened if it hadn't been for the determination and drive of Mr. Charlie Wilson, a true unsung hero in American history. And I think the saddest part of the whole thing is that after the war is over with, the Soviets have withdrawn, their country's beginning to fall apart, we're seeing the end of communist rule. Charlie wants to continue by stepping up humanitarian efforts and pumping more money into Afghanistan to help them rebuild their infrastructure, which has just been devastated by the war. And unfortunately, at this point, he finally begins to run into a lot of resistance from Congress, from the president. They really wanted to get involved to look good on the world stage to help push the Russians out of Afghanistan, but they're not too interested in helping to rebuild it. And sadly, It's the United States failure to act to help rebuild this country that ultimately leads to their resentment to the United States and the formation of groups such as Al Qaeda and ISIS, and the list goes on and on. And I believe, just like Charlie Wilson, that this could have all been avoided back in the late 1980s if we just would have spent some money and helped this country get back on its feet and get their economy rolling again, get their children educated, build them some hospitals, rebuild their roads, upgrade their communication systems. We had the money to do it. It wouldn't have hurt us to do that, but there was no glory in it, so it didn't happen. But I highly recommend this movie if you haven't seen it already. It is a fabulous movie. You should definitely check it out. And until next time, y'all take care.